I lived in a big city, but the summers were always too hot. I wanted a change. I wanted to see the countryside, walk in the woods, and be surrounded by green trees. One evening, I decided to go on a trip. I had a little red car and a map. Excited, I drove all night, leaving the busy city behind. The summer that year was beautiful, and the countryside looked even prettier in the early morning light. The sun was warm, the sky was bright blue, and I could hear birds singing in the trees. Everything felt perfect, but then, suddenly, my car stopped. My heart sank. What's wrong? I wondered. Then I realized, I had run out of petrol. Oh no, I thought. Now I'll have to walk and find a town to buy some petrol. But, where am I? I took out my map and looked at it carefully. There was no town nearby. I was completely lost in the middle of the countryside. Just then, I saw a girl walking down the road. She carried flowers in her hands and wore a long dress. Her black hair flowed down her back and shone in the sunlight. She was beautiful. I wanted to talk to her, so I got out of the car. "Hello," I said. "I'm lost. Can you tell me where I am?" She looked at me with wide eyes, a little afraid. I quickly spoke in a soft voice so she wouldn't be scared. "I don't have any petrol," I explained. "Do you know where I can find some?" Her blue eyes met mine, and then she smiled. She was even prettier when she smiled. "I don't know," she said gently. "But come with me to my village. Maybe someone there can help you." I felt relieved and happily walked with her. We walked for a long time, and I started to wonder, there was no village on the map. Maybe it's too small to be on the map, I thought. Then, finally, we arrived. The village was real, and it was beautiful. The houses were tiny, painted black and white, and there were many animals wandering around. It looked like a place from a different time. The girl stopped in front of a house and smiled at me. "Come in, please," she said kindly. I stepped inside. The house was small but very clean. However, something about it felt strange. There was a fire in the house, and above it, some food was cooking. The delicious smell made my stomach growl. That's strange, I thought. They cook their food over a wood fire. It felt like I had traveled back in time. I soon met Diana's parents. They were kind and welcoming, and I liked them immediately. But their clothes were different, old-fashioned, unlike anything people wore in the city. "Sit down," the old man said with a warm smile. "Are you thirsty after your walk?" He handed me a drink. And I thanked him. But when I took a sip, I was surprised. It was dark brown and very strong. It tasted different from anything I had ever drunk before. I didn't understand much about their way of life, but somehow, I felt happy there. Then, I remembered why I had come. "Do you know where I can find petrol?" I asked. The old man looked confused. "Petrol," he repeated. "What is that?" I stared at him, shocked. How can he not know what petrol is? I thought. Then I asked, "Do you walk everywhere?" The old man chuckled. "Oh no, we use horses," he said proudly. "Horses." I thought. But horses are so slow. Why don't they have cars? But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be rude. I stayed with them the whole day, and when evening came, we all ate dinner together. It felt like I was part of their world now. After dinner, Diana and I stepped outside into the garden. The stars shone brightly in the night sky. She looked at me and smiled. "This is nice," she said. "We like having visitors. We don't see many people here." We talked for a long time, laughing and enjoying each other's company. She was so beautiful, and I felt something deep inside me. I loved her. But after a while, Diana's face became serious. Her voice turned quiet, and she looked sad. "I cannot tell you," she said softly. "You are only a visitor here. We have to say goodbye tonight. You have to leave." I didn't understand. "Why?" "I love you, Diana. I want to help you." "Why do I have to go?" She looked down, pain in her eyes. "You have to go," she whispered. "It is dangerous here." I shook my head. "Then I'll go to the next town, find some petrol, and come back for you." She didn't answer. She just stood there, silent. "I love you, Diana," I said firmly. "And I will come back. You won't stop me." She walked with me to the door, her eyes filled with sadness. "Goodbye," she whispered. Diana's face was filled with sadness, and my heart ached too. I didn't want to leave her. But she had told me I had to go. It was midnight, and the night was incredibly dark. I walked and walked, my feet dragging with exhaustion. After what felt like forever, I finally saw the distant lights of a town. Relief flooded me as I hurried toward it. At a small garage, I bought some petrol. Then, out of curiosity, I asked the man there, "What's the name of the village nearby?" The man gave me a strange look. "What village?" he asked. I described it to him: the old houses, the small streets, the people in their strange clothes. But as I spoke, his expression grew more confused. He thought for a moment and then said something that sent chills down my spine. "There was a village there. But it isn't there anymore." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" I asked. "There are stories about it," he said uneasily. "What kind of stories?" I pressed. He hesitated, as if unsure whether he should tell me. Then, in a low voice, he said, "There was a fire. A long time ago. Everyone in that village died. There are no people or houses there now." I felt dizzy. "How did it happen?" I asked. "Why?" "John Glenn killed them," the man said grimly. "He was angry with the villagers because they helped the king during the war, but—" "That doesn't make sense," I whispered. "That war happened 350 years ago, and then, suddenly, everything fell into place: their strange clothes, their long hair, the way they cooked over a fire, their use of horses instead of cars. I remembered how they didn't know what petrol was." I shook my head in disbelief. "But I saw them," I insisted. "I spoke to them. I was in the village." The man looked at me carefully, then spoke in an even quieter voice. "There's a legend," he said. "Every 10 years, for just one day, the village comes back. On that one day, you can see the people, walk through the streets, and live among them. But before morning, you must leave. Or you will never leave at all." I felt my blood turn cold. Diana knew. She had warned me. She loved me, but she had told me I had to go. She was afraid for me. Now, I understood. I rushed back to where the village had been. But it was gone. I searched everywhere, running through the fields, looking for those black and white houses, for Diana's warm smile. But all I found were flowers and trees. The only sounds I heard were the birds and the wind. She was gone. I sank to the ground and wept. I will never forget that day. I will never forget Diana. I love her, and I always will. But I only have to wait, just 2 more months, then, on the right day, the village will return. And this time, I will find her again, my love with the long black hair, and this time, I will not leave before morning."